All right, so let's do the next topic, which is percent composition. This is in chapter 10, after the mole. The first practice problem says determine the percent of hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen in H2SO4. Now you have the full formula, so you know that the whole thing is H2SO4. You just have to figure out what the whole thing weighs. So hydrogen, there's two of them, times 1.0 each, that's 2.0. Sulfur, that's H. Sulfur, there's one of them. Sulfur's molar mass is 32.1. So that's 32.1. And oxygen, there's four of them, and that's 16.0 times 4, which is 64.0. So if you add this mess together, you end up with 98.1 grams. Now that's the total. That's what the whole thing weighs. And then what you need to do is figure out the part divided by whole for each one of these guys. So for hydrogen, you're going to do 2.0 divided by the whole thing, 98.1, multiplied by 100, and you end up with about 2%, 2.0%. What's next? Sulfur. We do all of sulfur, so it's 32.1 divided by the whole thing, 98.1, times 100, don't forget that, and you get about 32.7%. And then the last one for oxygen, let's go over here. Oxygen, you do 64.0 divided by the whole thing, 98.1 grams, and that comes out to about 65.2%. And then, real quick, just to make sure that I'm correct, I didn't make any silly mistakes, I add the 65.2 plus the 32.7 plus the 2.0, and I should come really close to 100. And in this case, I come out to about 99.9%. That's close enough. That's because this one was rounded down a little bit, this one was rounded up, and so forth. So when you round, you might not get exactly 100. If you carried more numbers out, then you would get closer to 100%. But either way, we're close enough. All right, now, it says determine the mass of oxygen in 450 grams of this. So I've got the same formula, and I purposely set this up so you don't have to redo the math. But the first thing you have to do is figure out what percent of this is oxygen. Well, we just did that. We said that this substance, this sample, contains 64 grams out of 98.1 grams total. So this sample is 65, let me do the part divided by the whole, 65.2% oxygen. Okay. Then I know it doesn't matter where in the world, how big or how small, it's always going to be 65.2% oxygen. So the problem says that I've got a whole sample, 450 grams, and I know that 65.2% of that is oxygen. So I multiply that by 0.652, and then I end up with 293.4 grams is oxygen. And if I subtracted 450 minus 293, the rest would be the hydrogen and the sulfur. But this is the part that's oxygen. So whenever you're given one of these problems, first figure out the percentage. Once you know the percent, multiply your percent times your sample size. It's just like if I told you M&M's always puts 25% of their bag are going to be red, and I hand you a big, gigantic, crazy size bag, count up all of them, know what your sample size is, and then 25% times however many are in your sample size, and that'll tell you how much is red. Okay? All right, we're all done with this section.